It's RT International. As Ukrainians mark the third anniversary of the Maidan uprising, ousted President Viktor Yanukovych has described its legacy and called for an end to the hostilities in the east of the country.
It is vital to immediately end the bloodshed. This can only be done by investigating the crimes committed during the Maidan uprising in Odessa and at other key trigger points leading up to the civil war. I am also convinced that without a fair investigation of these crimes under international monitoring, it will be impossible to achieve genuine reconciliation in my country, which is the only condition for its further development as a unified state. There are many witnesses who do not want to hand over evidence to the authorities because they know that all of the previous evidence made available over the past 3 years has been destroyed and that this process is still ongoing. So we have gathered a large body of evidence, and there are people who are willing to provide more, but they want to submit it to an international monitoring mission. It should be created on the basis of the signed agreement. I agreed to almost all of the demands made by the opposition for the sake of one thing: to prevent bloodshed and civil war, because Ukraine was split in two. The main reason for the tragic events in Ukraine, and this shocked me, was a huge desire to seize power at any cost. This was the main reason. The people behind the coup used all the methods known from the earlier color revolutions and the Arab Spring. But this was a separate Ukrainian project. At the beginning of 2014, the people of Donbass took a stand against the radical actions of the Maidan movement. It was a protest against an unconstitutional coup, but nobody wanted to listen to them. They were considered inferior. For me, this was illogical. If you seize power, you have to wield that power. Why would you want to undermine yourself, your own power and the government that has fallen into your hands at such a heavy price? But nobody felt this sense of responsibility, and they still don't. Poroshenko won the election on the basis of one promise: to stop the war. Did he do this? He did not. The war continues. And now there are no alternatives to the Minsk agreement.
Back to this hour's breaking news here on RT International. Russia's Supreme Court has cancelled the sentence of political activist Ildar Dadin, who was earlier charged with repeated violation of rules of public protest. Let's get more details now. Across live to our correspondent, RT's Ilya Petrenko, standing by for us now. Ilya, can you give us more details about this case, please?
Rory, hello. Well, it must be a day of massive relief for Ildar Dadin, a Russian political activist who took part in opposition protests a few years ago. But he was first arrested for repeated violations of the rules of public rallies and marches back in March 2014. Although the changes to Russian legislation which eventually led to his prison sentence, were in fact put in place later in summer. So these are the arguments that his lawyers were pushing forward at the Supreme Court, Russia's higher court, the highest court possible, and eventually this led to a decision to cancel that sentence. Now, this case was viewed by Russian opposition and also many human rights groups as politically motivated. Well, now, with this latest decision by Russia's Supreme Court, his case has been cancelled.
All right, RT's Ilya Petrenko. Thank you. All right, next year on RT International, it's going underground. Unless you're joining us from the UK or Ireland, then the story of the young man jailed for robbery when he was just 14 years old and told he would never see freedom again. That's coming your way next.